Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy here, and today I'm very excited because I'm bringing you a whole new series, and the name of that series is What's Happening to My Car. And what I'm doing with this series is I'm traveling around to different repair shops, and I'm going to go inside the service bays, talk about what they're doing, and explain to you some of the things that are happening while they do their repairs. I am outside of FlowTek Exhaust today, and we're going to go inside and see what they're working on. Hey guys, what's the dog's name?
Gara, or G.
G?
G.
Hi G. What's up, G? What's up, G?
That's our HR department.
Oh. So, am I hired? Viewers, I'm here with Austin, who was kind enough to invite me here to FlowTek Exhaust and allow me to hang out with him for a day. And what kind of, the way you set up your day, you say you come and you try to get like maybe easy stuff out of the way first, or
yeah, our
quick
appointments. So if we get all of our small stuff out of the way, we have the whole day not to stress out. Because people call nonstop any other car right now. So with this truck, it was dropped off 3 days ago for a starter, which is it doesn't need a starter, but he wanted a new starter put in, so put it in. Now I got to pull in an Infinity for a rear diff, and then I got to pull in a BMW for an oil pan gasket. That's a 13-hour day in 8 hours.
that's the game as far as being a mechanic. It's a flat rate thing. It's
Yeah.
You charge X amount for the job, but if you're skilled enough, and I'm not saying fast, I'm saying skilled enough to where you can still pull off the job and do it correctly and do it in less time than the book says, then you're making money. Otherwise, you could be spending 3 days on something that bills 2 hours, and then you're totally underwater. It sort of evens out, but it just depends.
Well, that bill's for 0.9, and if one of those starter bolts would have broken off up in the housing, I'm there for 4 or 5 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So rust happens, is what you're saying.
Yeah, especially
rust
old
happens.
Chevys.
On old Chevys.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get started.
Right now, well, I'm gonna get this one pulled out. I really wish I knew why I put a starter in this. It's bugging me.
Well, what was his complaint?
Nothing.
There's no complaint. He just said, hey, I need a starter put in this because I don't feel like doing it myself.
And I tried to explain to him, I said, man, you got a good OEM starter in there. It's gonna last 250,000 miles. This has 100,000 miles exactly on it. I just put in a starter from KOI, which aftermarket parts, they might last an hour.
I'm not the only person saying this, okay? Original equipment parts are the jam. You go aftermarket, it's...
Every time. It's a hit or miss.
It is a hit or miss.
never know.
And you do pay more for the original equipment stuff, but you only pay for it once.
Well, another thing is even like Bosch parts, even if it is OE equipment, Bosch is made in 15 different locations. Which location are you getting? Are you getting something from Germany? Or if is it coming from Kansas, is it coming from Mexico, is it coming from the United States?
Right.
So my electrical parts, I try to order everything from a certain warehouse because I know it's made in Germany. I don't run into those problems.
Parts is probably the most challenging part of just repair in general because they can make your day or they can completely mess it up. Do you want me to get a door or something? Or?
Yeah, you can grab that door.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a car there. There goes the flat rate.
Well, the customer's always right, Austin.
Always right.
It's infinity time.
Infinity time.
Infinity. XS. So it's XS.
So it sounds like, I don't know, I didn't even touch the fluid. It needs a diff at that point. It was crunchy. Like I was like, we could try doing fluid, but the OE fluid, I'm looking at like $75 a quart. I was like 1.5 quarts. I could try fluid. He was like, just get a diff.
So to get this straight, it first sounded like a wheel bearing, so it was howling.
Yeah.
But then it went to crunching.
And when it's off load, like when it's up in the air spinning, it's just crunching bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I didn't know that it had traction lights, so.
Oh, it's got a traction light also?
Yeah, I want to check that just in case I get done. I have a speed sensor issue. At least I know I was clear for what I did.
Looks like we had a failed headlight restoration. Yes, you can recondition headlights, but in my experience, they almost always come back to this condition at some point. There is UV protection that you can put onto them, and I will admit that I've never tried it, but after restoring several headlights and them coming back and the amount of time and effort that it takes to do it, personally, I'd rather just go to the aftermarket and just replace them.
Now, I can tell the customer, hey, it's my first pulled your car on for I pulled the diff. Okay. Check engine lights on for your typical P04 2430. So your
catalytic converters are looking like they're having issues,
but,
which those are expensive.
Yeah, but the fuel level sensor Now, if I pull the diff and I accidentally yank it, say one of the cables for the fuel level sensor, I don't know how their harness runs.
Right.
Now I can say, well, this was already there before.
Gotcha.
So I cover them, you know.
Yeah, you always have to cover your butt with this, right?
Yeah, you do.
Because if they come in with one problem and then suddenly they have another problem, which they may have a problem they may not even know about until it comes in and you identify it.
Yeah.
So you have to be pretty careful in those situations, especially when dealing with customers, because, well, it's not my fault. And I hate saying that, but sometimes it isn't your fault. Sometimes other things are breaking along the way. Sometimes rust happens and the thing that you removed disintegrated in your hand and you need a new one. These things happen. So it's really hard sometimes to nail down exactly what a repair is, exactly what it's going to take to do. Let's find out.
Hey, Mike, would you hop in here and start this so we can, so I can run the air? All right, put it in drive and run it. Get up to speed. All right. Ooh, yeah. So that's the crunchy.
Yeah, it's crunchy.
When it's on the ground driving it, there's no, it's loaded.
It's loaded.
So when it's loaded, so
Yeah.
whatever spider gear in there is separated.
Yeah.
When it's loaded, something is pushing it in.
And I didn't see anything leaking out of the outside of it.
Nope.
So it leads me to wonder how he did that. It seems to me like there maybe was some work that was done.
We have one problem. I gotta cut your beautiful work off. So where do you want me to, do you want me to just undo the hangers and then cut it here?
Oh man. If you did here, if you put 2 flanges on, then you can take it off whenever you want it.
Yeah, when you weld flanges, they tend to warp though.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
That's why I try to recommend V-bands. They don't warp.
Yeah.
They seal.
Now you're gonna cut up this wonderful exhaust that you've custom welded into here so that you can get the drive shaft and the rear differential out.
Yep.
You're gonna be a minute, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be a minute.
We'll stop back. This is Tyler, and Tyler is working on, it looks like a Toyota 4Runner.
23 TRD 4Runner.
All right, well, what are you doing?
So it was a little bit too loud from the factory. They come with a sports style muffler. So the customer said there was a little bit too much drone for him. So what I insisted him to do was actually get the OEM style off of like a base 4Runner, because they're a lot bigger than the one that you can see on that table over there.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here is installing that for him, but the flanges don't line up. So what I have to do is kind of custom fab something up to tie in his factory tailpipe for him. Basically cut the flanges off and put a sleeve in there and weld it solid for him. But this is going to make it way, way quieter for him.
So this is a little weird for me.
Yeah.
Custom exhaust shop and making the vehicle quieter.
Right.
And yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
So we get a lot of people wanting like louder options and everything. In this case, this is actually off the showroom floor, a little bit too loud for him.
Huh.
But luckily these come with 2 different style mufflers, one that's a little bit bigger and one's a little bit smaller for more performance and everything.
I'm so grateful there are people like you around that are able to do this kind of thing and allow, just doing custom work.
Absolutely.
Because stuff like this doesn't exist in a normal repair shop.
Right.
They usually just hang parts.
Absolutely.
You're making yours.
That and we save you a buttload of money too, because you go to the dealership, they want an arm and a leg to do this, and they have to replace all the way from here back, where we can save parts and actually reinstall them for you, because he likes the TRD style tip coming out the side.
Yeah.
From the factory, these usually come straight out the back with a big bulky resonator, and in my opinion, I don't like how they look either, so that's why we're saving this tailpipe for him.
Cool. Well, I'll stay out of your way. If you need me, let me know.
Right on, brother. So there was 2 flanges here. I had to cut those off. I have a piece of stainless steel pipe to match the factory pipe for them. So what I'm going to be doing is measuring this pipe out and putting it exactly where that tailpipe needs to fall, and reinstalling the pipe and welding it back together solid for them.
So you're not going to have a flange there anymore.
Nope, no flange.
So that's the downside.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
but that's why you always verify with the customer first.
Because it's permanent.
Exactly, it's permanent.
You're only getting it off
That's
with the Sawzall.
pros and cons of going with a muffler that doesn't exactly fit the vehicle.
Gotcha. What bends and what you're doing here is expanding the pipe.
Bends and expands, yep. So
that
if you
can-
hit this lever here, so let's say you need to go from 2 1/4 to 2 1/2. You can hit this lever here, and it actually expands it up for you. So you can either slide it over a new pipe or inside of a pipe.
That is darn handy.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we get a lot of exhaust that we have to expand. It doesn't retract, unfortunately, but expanding it is a lifesaver.
Gotcha.
It's an absolute lifesaver.
You can always go bigger, you can't go smaller.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
Yes, and then we have the old trusty Sawzall here. That's kind of a death machine because it lost its grip. But it works great.
I'll stand clear.
It works great. So rule number one with the Sawzall, you always want to keep your hands clear from right there, or else you'll lose a finger. And just like that, it comes off. Expand it a little bit more. It gives you the perfect fit every time.
Ooh, and real quick, I see how this works.
Yeah.
Now the way this is, it's got all these little fingers around the outside that move, but all this is really doing is pulling this back with this hydraulic ram, and as it does, these get bigger. So as it goes backwards, those get bigger, and that's what expands the pipe. It's really simple. Oh, you've already fixed it.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do here now is I have to hold the tailpipe up where it needs to be so you don't have any rattles. Since it's going to be permanent,
Okay.
you want to make sure you don't have a sound like that.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Positioning is your #1 concern with this.
Absolutely.
Because the second you lay that weld,
It's
there,
permanent.
it's
You
there
can always
forever.
cut it out and redo it, but it makes your life a lot harder. So this part, kids, I would definitely not try this at home. I'm about to hold the tailpipe where I want it here and close my eyes and put a tack on there just so it temporarily holds it in place before I weld it fully. And just like that, the tailpipe holds. So you make sure your tailpipe is exactly where you want it to be. No rattles or anything like that before you fully weld it solid, because it's a lot easier to break a tack than it is to break a full weld.
Absolutely. Looks like you got it perfect.
Absolutely. And that's the cool part about the TRD exhaust is a lot of the time, since these back windows roll fully down, when they come out the back, you get a lot of exhaust fumes when the windows are rolled down. So the new TRD upgraded exhaust puts it out the side to kind of help with that reason and kind of give you better clearance when you're off-roading. So if you hit a rock back here, it gives you better clearance there.
Yeah, that way you can get more of an angle.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Pipes made out of Swiss cheese.
It looks like you're using a flex MIG too.
I am, yeah. So on this one, if you have a tricky spot you need to get to, this one allows you to kind of angle it to get to certain spots. And I would consider this one a tricky spot to get to because for one, you're welding overhead. For two, that's where the angle comes in. You have to kind of go up like that. When the pipe is super thin, it kind of just builds up and wants to fall back down onto it, which causes holes here and there on certain occasions. So on this one, I have to turn the heat way down just so it builds up a little bit better without looking like somebody in their backyard did it for you.
So in that situation, you turn the heat down, but you turn the speed up?
Yeah. So that
And
way,
that way
so
it'll
that way
puddle up
it
more?
kind of helps to not put the holes in the pipe, basically.
Gotcha.
Kind of seals it
You're
up a
not
little bit
burning
better
right through.
when it is trying to drop down. That's the whole difference between overhead welding and doing it on the cart, is gravity is not in your favor.
Right.
So.
And I've had issues where if I tried to weld straight up like this, it just goes right back down inside the welder.
Exactly.
I've had that.
So that's where what your wire speed and your heat definitely comes into play in scenarios like this.
You got a way better welder than I do. Too.
No,
It's got
it definitely
stickers.
comes in hand.
It's
It
got
does, yeah.
stickers.
Yeah, it definitely does. And that's a wrap on that one.
Oh, so you're using an inspection mirror to check your weld on the top?
Yep. Yeah, and in certain scenarios, we'll take the drop it down, fire back up, and take the stethoscope to all the joints to make sure everything's sealed properly on it. But a lot of times we can just visually inspect it if it's an easy one to get to and see if it's sealed or not.
And away you go.
Absolutely. Easy as that.
Another satisfied customer.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, look, a race car. And they're driving it too. This is Savon. Savon is working on a race car. Savon, what are you doing to this race car?
So this is a 19 Ford Mustang. It probably only has, I would say, 10,000 miles on it. And right now we are upgrading the transmission from, I believe, a 24 spline to a 26 spline. So what that means essentially is that the splines on the input shaft are 24 and we're going up to a 26 to prevent these from stripping.
And more splines means you can put more torque,
power.
More torque.
More
through
torque.
that. Yeah, you can use.
So the chances of that input shaft shearing is a lot less. So this is a stage 3 built transmission by, I believe, Calamers. it says built by Calamir's transmission. So he's running a stage 3 built trans and then a Vengeance twin disc clutch, which I believe this might be rated to 1200 horsepower.
How much was this, just out of curiosity?
Lord, I would say probably around 1800.
I was going to say $2,000.
Yeah,
with a dual
1800,
disc clutch like
$2,000.
this. But it comes with a clutch alignment tool.
Yes.
So
Very convenient.
worth every penny.
Especially when you have two
oh yeah,
clutch discs.
if you've got 2 clutch discs that you need to align, that's the way this whole system works. There's actually, well, there's one on the floor that we can get a closer look at. But instead of just having 1 clutch disc in this housing, there's actually 2.
Yep. So
That's
goes
one.
one, and then there's a plate in the middle, and then another plate, and then
So
it's the
2
pressure
clutch
plate.
discs, and part of it, it's like a clutch sandwich.
Yeah, so from what I understand, this is a lot better than having a stiffer pressure plate because it still gives you stock drivability.
Well, what it does, it increases the surface area of the clutch. So you're doubling the surface area of the clutch. It's like having 2 clutches in there.
Yep.
In fact, it is like having 2 clutches in there. So you're able to increase that space that torque is going through, and that gives it more strength.
Yep, and then this is rated for, I believe, 1,000. And what's interesting is that this pressure plate actually feels 2 times lighter than the stock pressure plate.
Interesting.
So it's a lot harder, it's a lot stiffer of a clutch pedal on the stock one versus this one, it feels like a Honda Civic clutch pedal,
Interesting.
which is very, very light. Stock is dual mass flywheel.
Okay,
They get rid of that and they just run a solid aluminum flywheel.
gotcha.
So you get a lot more clutch shatter and shudder,
Okay.
but it's less shock, I
Well,
believe, from the...
what you mean by dual mass flywheel, many times with a clutch, what they will do, a clutch is actually a sandwich of different components on the inside. So you'll see like half of the friction material, half of the friction materials on the other side, and then you'll see this line going through the middle. That's because these 2 things are somewhat independent of each other. And on some clutches, rather than it being solid in this area, they'll put springs on the inside. And that way, when the clutch applies, those 2 sandwiches can move independently of one another, and those springs take up the shock load. These don't have that, so there's no springs, there's nothing taking up that shock load of when that pressure plate applies pressure to this
Especially on a
clutch.
pressure plate, there are no springs.
So there are no springs. So what they do is they put the damping inside of the flywheel itself. So there's a mechanism inside the flywheel that takes up that shock load when you first apply the clutch.
And in this case, there is no dampening whatsoever. So when you drive these cars, when you let off, you'll feel a very heavy shudder and a vibration. And that's kind of normal. That's kind of the price you got to pay for wanting to go.
Well, so you're
more
spending
power.
$2,000 for a shuttering clutch that used to take off from a dead stop.
Yeah, so drivability completely goes out the window. It's not smooth. But again, when it's time to make that power, 800, 900 foot-pounds, you got to sacrifice something.
And this is what the aftermarket is for.
Yes.
When a manufacturer makes a vehicle, even if they're making a performance vehicle like a Mustang like this, they have to think about somebody actually driving it.
Yeah, they
Like,
want to make sure their mom could drive it, grandma could drive it if she has to.
something like that. Grandma gets in the 5.0 and watch out, all right? Manufacturers, they have to tick a lot of boxes. They have to make it drivable. They have to give it the performance. They have to have fuel economy standards they have to conform to. They have to be able to drive down bumpy roads.
Yeah.
When you're on the performance side of things, you sort of throw a lot of that comfort stuff out of the window.
Yes.
Because the manufacturer was going for the every customer. What Savon is doing here, he's going for the race customer, and comfort is not a part of the package.
Yes, we call this Project Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby, I like that.
He wants power.
The
so
Ricky Bobby package.
In order to get power, you have to make some sacrifices and you have to upgrade some things. So along with that clutch and the built transmission, he's also choosing to go carbon drive shaft. You can go ahead and hold and feel this one.
So what I have here is the stock drive shaft that was in that Mustang. And I would say 20 pounds?
I would say 20,
25
25 pounds.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And what he's replacing it with is this unit here, which I'm sure costs some money. This is carbon fiber. And I would say the ends, this joint weighs more than this whole thing. This is the heaviest part. And I would say it's not that much lighter, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And that's because this joint
It's 'cause
up on
that
this
thing
end,
is so beefy.
This end feels heavy. It might
Yeah,
be the
well,
same
if you look
weight.
at the difference, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so much more beefier.
Oh, yeah.
But I would imagine that it has to be beefy to take that drivetrain shock.
Right, but certainly an expensive piece. I'm gonna set this down. and walk away. But QI1 makes some great stuff, though.
They
I love
do.
their stuff.
I also take care of a Camaro, but whenever they go to the drag strip, I always remove their sway bars.
I like the way you said that you take care of a Camaro too. So they're like your kids in a way. that
Exactly.
you're taking care
I
of.
claim part ownership of the car.
Even though it's somebody else's car, you sort of claim ownership of
Exactly.
it because you're the person like putting that
I'm
work
the doctor
into
of
it.
the car, just
So
like, you know, you have a doctor for your health.
Exactly. So they may be running 10s, but you're also running 10s in a way because you made that happen. I like that. I like that a lot.
I'm surprised, or I'm going to be curious how the difference is going to be. Drivability.
Well, you get to take it out on the first test drive.
I hope I can. We're going to have to do a crank relearn. So what I learned about Coyotes is that if you take the transmission, the flywheel off, and even if you don't mess with it, the crank reluctor is on the back. So even if it moves by a millimeter, you have to do a crank relearn. The first time that I did this, and I started driving it down the road, it started misfiring. And I immediately was like, oh snap, what did I do? But after reading a TSB on Protoman, they said every single time you take anything off, you have to do a crank relearn.
The engine has a computer that keeps track of exactly where that engine is in its rotation, in its crankshaft rotation. So it knows exactly where the pistons are inside of the engine. And it uses that information to calculate when it's going to fire the spark plugs, when it's going to add fuel, and all those other important things.
Yep.
So if it doesn't have a frame of reference, such as where is start point on my crankshaft, it doesn't know what to do, and therefore it might have a misfire or something like that as a result. So with modern vehicles that are very tied into electronics, you have to make sure that they know what's going on. They don't know that you changed the transmission or anything like that. You have to let them know after the fact, perhaps with the computer, as Savon just described. You've got the transmission out of this car.
Yes, sir.
And you've just taken the transmission out. You're replacing the clutch, but why are you replacing the transmission?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know specifically why, because like I said, I just put in a clutch maybe 2,000 miles ago for this guy. From what he said, he was no lift shifting, and he lost, I think, second gear synchro, and he lost his throw-out bearing.
Oh, wow. That would be a reason to pull the transmission
Yeah.
out, because that would mean the transmission wouldn't really be moving.
Exactly.
No
So when
second
I
gear.
first started the car up this morning, and also when I got it off of the trailer, it was just making this knocking noise inside the transmission.
Thankfully,
So,
inside the transmission.
something internal inside the transmission. It is a core, so it's going to go back to whoever sent the built transmission, and they'll disassemble it. Sometimes I like to disassemble just to figure out what broke.
What broke? Yeah. Because sometimes it's spectacular.
Yeah,
really
it's
cool.
fun always taking stuff apart just to figure out what broke.
That's probably
this
what got you here.
Yeah, this one I can't.
Well, now we know the story. We have a person, well, you can just tell by the rear tires on this car that this person likes to drive their Mustang, and I'm all for that. I'll let you get back to work.
Thank you.
Looks like the HR department needs to speak
Yeah,
with
she
you
needs
about
some
something.
attention.
We're back to the differential. Initially, I looked at this and I was like, hey, it's going to be a minute getting that out of there, but it looks like you're like 2 bolts away.
2 bolts away. So pull the rear drive axles, pull the drive shaft. I was thinking I was going to have to remove suspension. I was thinking I was going to have to drop the whole drive shaft. But with the rust being up here, the center support bearing, I really don't want one of these studs to break off. That would set me back about 3 hours on a 3-hour job.
Yeah.
So luckily, this coming loose is going to leave me just enough to hopefully pivot down the drive shaft and the differential enough to be able to slide it out of this rear rubber polyurethane mount that has a stud going through it. I have to go out of that about 1.5 inches. So it's a gamble right here. If it doesn't work, I'm going to need you to thread a bolt back in so it's not hanging.
Gotcha. Let's do it.
That's where we're at.
You want me to hold up the front while you take those other 2 out?
Yeah, we can do that. Just hoping we can get around it. There we go. I wouldn't say
Oh, that's perfect.
this sway bar. They can't do much.
It's better than nothing, I would say.
Better than nothing.
I got it. Go ahead.
Whoa, that's what we wanted.
Drive
We wanted
shaft's
that
out of the way. You got it?
Yep. All right. I guess fish
Back
it
towards
over
you?
towards me a little bit.
Gotcha. Oh, you got it. The
Got
vent.
a hose.
The vent.
There's a
There's
clamp on it.
There's a clamp on it here.
You want to grab me a pair of pliers?
Go ahead. I got
You got
it.
it?
Yeah, I got it.
Alrighty. grinding.
Good.
Yep.
Coming down. Oh, you?
I guess it's mine.
You got it?
Yep. All right. So now let's compare. Before I get this one in, I'm probably gonna, I don't know, I kind of want to pop that drain plug loose.
I spoke too soon on that leak.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Looks like it leaked out the pinion seal. Probably ran dry.
Yeah.
Because the other one is not leaking. The other one's bone dry.
Yep.
I wonder if that's what happened. It's really cool that you'd be able to get it out of there like that and not have to mess with all the suspension. That's a total win.
Very thankful.
Looks like they bent your vent tube a little bit.
Guess at this point, take me a little break and hopefully they drain this thing. If not, I'm gonna drain it while it's down so I can get everything out. That way I don't have to suck it out when we're up there.
And you wouldn't go through all this trouble without putting new fluid in it.
By no means.
Yeah.
By no means.
All right, well, we'll stop back when you're ready.
Sounds good, thank you.
So on this one, we're going to be doing a 2.5 Y pipe. So if you look down here, we have a few different style dies. We can go all the way up to 3-inch exhaust. So you have 3-inch right here, 2.5 here, 2 1/4 here. And if you come on this side here, these are for 2-inch, 1.5 inch, and 1 3/4.
And these are the dies that you're talking about?
Exactly,
Is that
yeah.
what these are called, dies?
Dies, correct.
Okay.
So those are what we use to bend the exhaust on this machine here.
And they're all that 180 degrees?
Yeah,
You just do-
so they can go up to 180 degrees. Sometimes it will kink the exhaust if you try to go 180 degrees, so sometimes we'd have to two-piece it to keep a nice flowing, straight, and beautiful looking exhaust for the most part.
The point I was trying to make is that's 180 degrees, but you're not necessarily bending it all the way around.
Correct,
It just
correct.
has the good radius so that
Absolutely.
you don't get those bends in the pipe
Right.
that cause a
Yep,
problem.
100%. And to work this machine, there's a little lever down here. And once upon a time, there was some numbers here that you can see exactly where you're bending it. Luckily for us, we've been using this machine for many years, so we know exactly where to stop the bend at. So to start with the custom Y pipe, I'm gonna have to make 2 90-degree bends. So what you do is just line it up, and wherever you want your bend to start, you line it up right here directly. Kind of works as like an arrow here. And then to bend it, all you do is just put your leg on this lever, go this way, and it bends it with ease. So that's 90 degrees right there.
You know it's 90 just because you've done it so many times?
So that, and there is a dial down here.
Okay.
It's a little bit cut
Oh,
off.
okay.
But so like I was telling him, with us, we've been using this for so long, we can kind of count the lines and know
Gotcha.
exactly where to stop. And that's the beautiful part about custom exhaust is you really don't necessarily need to know the bends. For us, we can just look at it and know exactly where it wants
You
to fall.
think in pipes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Like you go home and you look at things and you're like, oh, I can bend that at a 90
right.
and that's at a
Exactly.
30. And
Yep.
I'm going to do that in 2.5
Right.
and that in 3-inch.
So that's how our minds work here at a custom exhaust shop. So this is going to be one side of the Y pipe. So I'm going to put it in the expander here, get it a little bit more round before I cut it. And I want it to be a 90-degree Y pipe. So I'm going to put it back in here, just enough to clamp it solid, so when I'm cutting it, it doesn't move all over the place. Come over here and grab the Sawzall, and I'm going to cut it down as straight as possible down here. Well,
Stupid machine.
stupid machine.
Bender, I'm kicking your butt.
So there's one side of the Y pipe. So I'm going to make an exact same piece. And when I'm done with that, we're going to weld these together so you have a perfectly flowing 2.5 Y pipe.
Nice.
I'm going to mark it as close as possible to the same piece you just made. Mark where to cut it. And repeat the same process.
This is the exciting part.
Got a custom 2.5 Y pipe.
Look at that.
So now we're going to go over to the bench, weld it up, trim it back down, and install it on the vehicle and build the rest of our exhaust.
So cool.
So cool. So to start on this one, I'm going to give it one tack right in the middle, just to make sure it holds in place. Now I can pick it up without it moving altogether, and kind of make sure my gap is pretty similar on each side to make sure it's not going to be tremendously hard to weld at least. And before I weld, I'm going to throw another tack right here, just to hold it in place, and same on the other side. And now I know where exactly to start my weld and where I can end it to flip it to the other side and weld it again. Make sure your settings are good before you start the weld. Now I just flip it to the other side and do the same thing. Now you have a sealed Y pipe. So what I'm going to do next is trim this down here and add on an adapter piece so that I can slide it over the 2.5 pipe and re-weld it onto here. So now I'm going to grab a piece of 2.5 stainless and weld on an adapter around here. So there's a perfect piece. Just got to weld it on just like that. And before I fully weld this one, I'm going to flare this up so it goes over the 2.5 and make sure I'm happy with my placement. So as you can see, it needs a little bit more to fit over that pipe, and that's where the expander comes into place. And just like that, you have a full 2.5 Y pipe.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
So I drained the fluid out of the new diff. I'm happy about that. There was a little bit of debris on the magnet for the drain plug. I'm gonna swap the diff covers for two reasons. One being the threads for both ABS speed sensors for the rear. Don't like the threading. And this vent hard hose right here being crushed by, I would say, the junkyard is not gonna come out very easily. Be a lot easier to go on and put a cleaner cover on it with a new gasket, because I would hate to put this one in and it starts leaking from that gasket anyways.
The interesting thing is from what I know of differentials, they put these stickers on the back of them, and that dictates what it is. And it's on this rear cover, like this one on your old one is missing, and this one is not. So in a way, you're changing its identity is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's an identity swap.
It is an identity
So
swap.
it's getting a clean passport that it can use to travel
Wherever it wants.
whatever roads it wants.
Yeah.
No, that's basically what we're doing.
It has no warrants.
Yeah, so we're not only changing differentials today, we're changing identities as well. Now we are talking to Mike, or is it Mikey?
Mikey,
Mikey.
around here.
Now we're talking to Mikey around here. And Mikey, what are you working on?
I'm working on an excursion with a 7.2. I'm about to do a full MBRP swap. front
What's
to
an
back.
MBRP?
It is a high performance brand for mostly diesels, some F-250s, and a big leader.
Oh, so they're a company that makes, looks like custom exhaust parts?
Yeah,
Okay. And this is a diesel?
correct.
So you're putting on a custom exhaust onto this.
Yes.
And-
We're going from a 3-inch downpipe and 4-inch rest leak exhaust to a 5-inch downpipe all the way out.
So you're going from 3/4 inch stock exhaust to
Yes.
5-inch,
Correct.
the monster pipe. Like you can put a baby's head inside the tailpipe.
Just
Comes
about.
with a warning. Ooh, there it is. This will move lots and lots of exhaust. It's so exhausting. I'm sure you have to get the old stuff off first if you haven't already.
I'm probably going to take the tailpipe and then muffler assembly off.
With an exhaust upgrade like this, do you notice a performance increase, or is this sort of like, I'm cooler because my exhaust is an inch bigger than yours kind of thing?
A little bit of both. Something like this, you usually have to get, you'll notice a slight performance, but you usually have to get a tune to actually notice big performance.
That was the next question. I was going to say, do you have to get a tune in order to get it to fully realize
To make up for the
the
ratios
benefits
that
of
change.
having a larger exhaust?
If you do this without a tune, it just ends up running rich.
Rolling coal
Yeah.
all day long.
Yep. Oh, this one might be tricky.
I do back in storage. Give me like 40 minutes.
Nice.
I also say that whenever something happens.
Yeah.
And I don't have to fight it too much. Because I'm always just so happy when
Sometimes these are so tough, they bend our tools.
when things come apart, I'm always happy. I always feel a little bit of joy inside. Because putting things back together doesn't seem nearly as challenging as taking rusty things apart.
No, absolutely.
I'm glad to know that's a universal thing.
Whether it's engine or exhaust.
I'm going to hold this up like this.
I appreciate that.
No problem. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help. Actually, hang on a minute. I was going to say you were on the stop.
Okay.
Now you're on the rubber.
Like I said, sometimes they bend our tools like it just did to this one.
Show me that hand strength, man. Oh, wow.
It was right here. So
it's never going to work.
I might just have to cut that.
Or if you got a pry bar. I'll show it what for.
Oh, you took it off from the top. Okay.
That's
Should be good there.
I'm really glad I didn't stab your hand.
You're good.
I did something.
I'm more worried
I
about
still got it.
And we are good to go. Usually just kick these things.
You should just stand out of the way and let it fall.
No. Actually, while you're here,
I can.
I forgot about one more hanger. But when the time comes, just grab the front. I usually
Grab the front up here.
Yeah. I usually grab another coworker for this.
Gotcha. You're stuck with me for the moment, Mikey. Sorry.
That's absolutely fine.
But I got this front piece so that when it falls, it's not going to hopefully go anywhere. Although that muffler does look like it weighs a bit.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna spray some of that. Where'd you put that down?
The slippery juice?
Yes, he is.
I set it down someplace far, far away. Oh, they had two back there.
Yeah. All right, pry bar time.
Happy in this apartment.
That was just.
Yeah, that felt like progress.
All right, that one's ready to go.
Oh, yeah, you did it. All right, I got it.
Hardest part of the job.
Right?
So I'm just gonna lift this up and kick the stands out.
Got ya.
Easily.
Oh my God.
King coffee.
Coming to you.
I'll take it from here.
All yours.
Out to the scrap pile. And then again, since you're here, would you mind lifting that up? Like, yeah. So I get the right position.
Yeah, because there's a shock in my way. I can't see anything of what you're doing.
Watch it.
Got it.
And there we go.
All yours.
The worst is over.
I'm helping.
You were.
So here's our original differential. Took off the cover to replace. And the spider gear and the pinion gear, you can't really see it back there. These should not be sharp. They should still be.
No.
There should still be 2.5 millimeters of thickness to them.
And also, did I also hear you say there's no fluid in this?
No fluid. It's all what's left is right here.
So perhaps the theory of it all leaked out the pinion seal?
It's just crazy. There wasn't a trail.
Or they got it serviced somewhere and they forgot to refill it?
That's probably what happened. So now my next step here is to clean up this cover so I can reuse it, get some gasket sealant on there, slap it on there, torque down the bolts, and then put it back in.
So you're actually going through the trouble to do this right?
Well, I don't want them to come back for the same issue.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Because they're going to blame you this time.
Yeah.
Or next time. Not this time.
I'm not necessarily charging more. It's more time, but I know my warranty's covered.
Fix right the first time is always the way to go. And what is that saying? A stitch in time saves 9?
Stitch in time saves 9. That is right.
It's true.
Probably be better from that side.
Over here?
So I'd usually put a stand here, but here. After this piece, we'll have another hanger. We'll be good to go.
It's getting longer.
But from here, it's just like putting together Legos.
Right? I knew that would pay off. My Legos.
This hanger on.
Don't! Somebody put a stupid shock in the way.
Final hanger. Well, this tip's gonna stick out.
Is that a bad thing?
No, not for diesels.
All that power, all that torque.
Should be good back there.
That seems to be where it's hanging low right here. Yeah. Well, question. So those clamps, those big wide clamps, and the way the pipes slip over one another and they have those slits in them,
Yeah.
do you find that to be a better option than the old style where you have like that bolt that's bent into a U shape and then you take that other long piece, slip it on there, and you tighten those 2 nuts?
In comparison to that one, yes, they'll seal more. Either option will leak a little bit. There's not a full sealing, but you get a lot less leaks out of doing it like this. As long as
It seems easier to work with too.
yeah.
And also, like, once you tighten those old clamps down, it's like, that's it. That puts a
Yeah.
dent in the pipe, and that's that.
Exactly.
Whereas this, you could loosen it up and move it around a little bit.
Yeah,
it
with the
seems.
U-bolts, if you over tighten, you're just bending your exhaust.
I guess they are U-bolts, aren't they?
Yeah,
That would have
pretty
been
much.
a better way to say it. Anyway, I was just curious about that because I see this type of clamp on exhaust a lot more now than I used to.
It's a lot more common these days in between that and V-bands.
Ooh, you got to get the tip.
Just like that. This is all up to customer preference.
So as far how far in or how far out they want it, or if they want it tipped this way, or
Yeah. Most customers will want it like this and they'll have to trim most of the exhaust down. There are a couple people that like it like that.
they don't like their shins.
No. But I'm gonna have to call this customer and make sure he wants it flush with the body, and if so, trim this pipe up. Most kits that come in have to be somewhat modified.
They're in the right place.
Exactly.
I'll get the. Oh, or can you reach the? All right, push it in. Yes. All right, hold it right there.
Hope you got a spare shirt.
No, I don't. No, that is great.
I love that smell too. It's the best smell.
Yeah, smell it for 3 days.
Can't tighten that much because I need to get that drive shaft again.
You're safe now.
All right, that's good. We'll go with it.
I'm exhausted.
You used that joke already.
But you can stand there and talk to them all day long. You can show them a picture. That's why I
Like I said, if people can see it, they get it. But if you're just sitting there talking,
yeah. And it's hard to break things.
sounds diesel-y.
How do you check for leaks? Just listen?
I'm about to go grab a tool for that.
Okay.
He said the turbo will make it seal over time.
What's up?
We're just filling the differential.
That's it.
You want to go on this side?
Actually weld it?
If you want.
A word of advice. If someone hands you the welding torch at the exhaust shop, bring your A game.
I think you can do it, man. I believe in you.
If I can see it, I'll do it.
Oh yeah, man! Hey! Holy shit! Zoom in on this.
All right. I'm an exhaust guy now.
You're fired. Wow. Beautiful.
That's because you.
There's the exhaust guy.
That's because you set up the welder.
You about ready? Yeah. Woo. Don't try that at home, kids.
Oh, this is working swimmingly. Good call. Yeah, anything on the drivetrain, Loctite's a good call. Especially on this drivetrain.
Yeah.
I ran the orange Loctite.
I get the feeling that this guy is running it at the limits manufacturing spec.
But yeah, so we're gonna go ESS twin turbo kit with 72, 76s.
I mean, turbos are great, but they're heat monsters. And the plumbing,
Yeah, but at least the cool thing is the turbos are gonna be down here
yeah.
because there's no room.
Oh, that's cool.
But still, the heat that's generated is just like.
They're heat monsters. Yeah, expensive.
I'm a Loctite.
Does it have a mark on it where
Yeah.
stuff's supposed to line up?
For every single bolt, it's marked, and there's a yellow paint marker, which I just lined it up with the yellow paint marker that's on the pinion.
What he's talking about there is this is a rotating assembly, and anytime you have a rotating assembly, there's a chance for it to be unbalanced, and you want to make sure that it is balanced. So they balance everything and usually leave you marks like this to make sure that everything goes back in line how it was when it was balanced. If not, you put it together and it's out of balance, and you get a driveline vibration. And that's no bueno.
All right, load and drive.
The payoff, all that work.
Get up to speed. Yeah. Beautiful.
Why?
How do you feel about it?
Feel great. There's no noise at all coming out of it. Like, I'd feel it if
One
it
more
was.
time.
Doesn't feel any chunkier than normal. The chunky that I'm feeling is the axles. It's not the diff.
Yeah. All right.
I'd say you're good. Let's recap some of the things that we did today at FlowTek. One of those things was making a 4Runner quiet. It was too loud, according to the customer. We saw a Coyote Mustang with a blown-up transmission get a new transmission, as well as a carbon fiber drive shaft and some other go-fast upgrades. We saw a Ford Excursion with a diesel engine get a new 5-inch exhaust. And lastly, we saw this Infiniti come in with a howling differential. Turns out, well, I believe somebody drained all the fluid out and never bothered to put any new fluid back in. That's not good. And as you see here, it can get expensive. And I want to thank Austin, Savon, Tyler, and Mikey for letting me hang out and pretend I was a mechanic for a day. Well, viewers, I hope you enjoyed the inaugural episode of What's Happening to My Car here at FlowTek Exhaust in Westchester, Ohio. A big thanks to all the guys that work here. I learned a bunch of stuff. I hope you learned stuff too. That's the whole point of these videos. If you have automotive questions, I ask that you head to EricTheCarGuy.com. That will be linked down in the description, along with a link to FlowTek Exhaust if you want to check these guys out. Thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of What's Happening to My Car. I really enjoyed making it. I really enjoyed hanging out with the boys at FlowTek Exhaust. It was great. I learned stuff and I hope you did too. I'd like to do more of these episodes, but I'd like to travel around to different shops, particularly in the southwestern Ohio area, northern Kentucky, southeastern Indiana, someplace that I could drive to relatively simply. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, by the way. If you have a shop or work at a shop and your owner is cool with it, send me an email to eric@ericthecarguy.com and perhaps we can set up the next episode of What's Happening to My Car. Other than that, thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time.